Man, that new season of Stranger Things isn't messing around. Yes, I know I've already made very similar jokes about Stranger Things before, but as long as Hollywood keeps setting spooky-ass shit in the 80s, I'm going to continue to. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is our post-Geekout reaction for It. I don't know if it's just called Stephen King's It. I feel like I need to add an extra word in there, because we went by my comic shop after we got done seeing this, and everybody said, "What'd you see?" I said, "It," and then there would be like a brief pause. Oh, okay. Like, if you just tell people you saw It, they're waiting for the rest of the sentence. But you got the spooky-ass Stephen King clown film. Yes, so for anybody who's not seen a post-Geekout reaction before, it is not a review. I am going to do an actual review of this, and in the review I sit down, I think of everything I want to say, I type it all out, and I make sure there are no spoilers in there. In the post-Geekout reaction, it's just our open, honest discussion about the thing that we just watched, and that does include full spoilers. So if you have not seen this film, or probably read the book, or the miniseries that came on in 1990, then tune out now. But if you have seen any of those, then hey, stay tuned. So, I saw, just to let you guys have some backstory on this, I saw the miniseries for this probably when it came out, because I was a little kid when I originally saw this, and it creeped the hell out of me. I was scared out of my mind by it. But people keep telling me, yeah, don't hold on to those memories. Don't go back. It hasn't aged well. And I've seen some reviews of it now in hindsight, and all the critics basically say, yeah, this shit is goofy and dumb. But even if it did scare me, I don't remember a lot from it, because, like, again, I was like 6 years old when it came out. This is your first, like, encounter with it at all.
Yeah, it's like, I've heard of the creepy Stephen King clown movie, but I never saw it because my parents were good and they didn't want me to see any scary movies.
What the fuck are you saying about my parents? We all know my parents. Hey, my parents who watch this. My parents are at home like, yeah, you saw it. Whatever.
Yeah, I didn't see the miniseries or anything, but yeah, that I saw some commercials and stuff, so that was enough to creep me out.
That's one of the things that weirds me out, though. So many people don't actually know it was a miniseries. Like, you thought it was a movie.
Yeah.
And when we went to my comic shop afterwards, they're like, yeah, I never saw the movie. And I was like, miniseries. And he goes, what miniseries? I never saw the miniseries either, but I didn't see the film either. And I was like, It's the same thing. They took the miniseries, and then afterwards, they combined both parts together, took all the commercials out, and put it on HBO and reruns, so everybody thinks it was a movie, but it wasn't a movie. It was a two-part miniseries, came on one night after the other, or like 1 week after the other. I can't remember which
Yeah,
way.
you gotta explain this to everybody, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to keep breaking it down, and no one wanted to believe me on this. It's like, guys, I know you think it's a movie. It was not a fucking movie. Yeah, that's the thing. Stephen King, everybody knows there have been dozens of films based on his works. There have been a ton of miniseries based on him, and most of the miniseries suck, but the It one is the one that everybody remembers real fondly. But like I said, so many people keep saying, yeah, don't go back to that. Don't.
I feel like the only reason why everyone remembers It is because clown.
Yeah. That was the thing. Aside from, like, I don't know, the Joker, like, there really wasn't any, like, creepy clowns back then. Well, in
fiction.
In fiction. But even then, you go back to, like, the Joker in the 80s and stuff, like, he wasn't really that bad. Like, well, I guess the Killing Joke came out around then, so he was. But it was around that time. Well, it's always like there was something that happened in the 1980s that caused everyone to become freaked out by clowns.
Speaking of which, you were never afraid of clowns, were you?
No, I was always just annoyed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there's some comedian out there, I don't know his name, but he had a great line which he said, I don't know what the point of clowns is. Children are afraid of them and adults are annoyed by them. And I was like, yeah. I think the only people who enjoy clowns are other clowns. Like, if you see a clown and you're like, I like that, you're gonna become one. Yeah. It's kind of like werewolves. Like, if you get that bite, you're gonna end up becoming one.
I thought you meant, hey, I like that werewolf. I think werewolves are cool, and then suddenly I become a werewolf. Oh, it's a full moon tonight.
Man, that Universal Monsters films really don't know what they're doing now. There's so many people screaming at us, get to the fucking movie already. We've been going for, what, 4 minutes? We still haven't even talked about this? Okay. So, yeah, I just want to let you guys know that backstory because when this film started, it starts with that classic scene of Georgie, and he's got the boat, and he's running alongside, and like his brother, what was his brother's name?
Billy?
Billy, thank you. Oh my god, I really should have probably listed their names before we started doing this.
Well, don't you have your phone? Or...
Yeah, but I don't want to stop this. Prepare for just half an hour of me referring to them by vague descriptions. So, Billy, who is this kid who's got a stutter, he makes a boat for his little brother Georgie to play with in the rain. It's coming down heavy, which I gotta say, going into this weekend was a little bit weird for me to think about that. I was like, oh, this probably is not very comforting to a lot of people down in the South right now. My thoughts and prayers go out to all of you. But Georgie, he's got floating, he's running after the thing, and there's one thing that the film does pretty well right off the bat. It really does get you into the mindset kind of as a kind of a child, because when he sees the boat going in there, I was kind of like, no, like, because when you're a kid, anything you have, when it looks like it's gonna be destroyed, your like first thought is, oh, they're gonna kill me and it's gone and I'm never gonna get it again. And I was like, yeah, I kind of had that thought there. Like, they shot this very well to put you in his mind. And then Pennywise the Clown comes up out of the sewer, and I had seen Pennywise talk in these trailers, and in the trailers, he was very sweet and very innocent. Like, that was his voice, and that was what was meant to be creepy about, which was totally different from Tim Curry's voice in the original. Because in the original, he had like an old Brooklyn hobo voice. Like, hey, Georgie. Hey, I'm Pennywise the Dancing Clown. I was like, which I don't know if they were going for hobo clown voice, because that's a weird subgenre of clowns, the hobo clown. So I don't know if they were going for that, or if they were trying to contrast it to the way he looked, because like a clown shouldn't sound like that. But when he comes up the first time in this film, he was going back and forth between the, oh, hey, Georgie, I'm Pennywise the Dancing Clown. And I was like, he was going back and forth. I was like, don't try and do that. Like, it really made me kind of worried in that moment, because I was like, oh man, it feels like they're going to try and make this not an interpretation of the Stephen King novel, but of the 1990s miniseries. And Tim Curry was so iconic as that version of Pennywise, you can't try and impersonate his version of Pennywise. And I was kind of nervous, so I was sitting there like, all right, this is being shot well. I like a lot of the camera angles, I like the cinematography. The kids so far seem good, but if this is the Pennywise we're getting, it seems like this is just going to be an inferior version of holy fuck! Because, oh my god. Okay, I literally was sitting there at that moment also going, wait, I didn't check, is this PG-13 or is this R?
It's R.
And yeah, in that holy fuck moment, I got my answer. Because he grabs the kid's hand when he comes in to get the boat, and then he opens his mouth, and it's just rows and rows of teeth, like razor sharp teeth, and he bites down the kid's arm.
And like rips it off completely.
And I went, holy fuck at that. And the next shot is of the kid like screaming, and like it's then the kid trying to pull away, and you see his arm is gone. He ripped the kid's arm off. I went,
clean off, like, whoa.
Oh, this ain't the miniseries. This didn't come on, this ain't coming on basic cable. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. And then you've got the clown's hand like reaching out to grab it.
And it's like stretching
It's like
out,
stretching,
like...
which I thought they could have even have shown like a little bit more of that, because like it stops right when it gets too long to be a normal human hand. It's like, you had gone even like a second longer, it would have been even creepier. But like, yeah, it's really damn creepy. And I was just watching this, like, he drags the kid in, you see like a puddle of blood getting washed away in there. I was like, what the fuck just happened? Holy shit. And I will have to admit, after watching The Dark Tower and learning about the origin story of Pennywise the Clown, that he comes from this dark dimension, and so does everything in Stephen King thing, like, it's weird that the Marvel films have trained me to do this, but now that I know that all the Stephen King books exist within a shared universe, I kept looking for little hints of other things in there, which I couldn't find any, but I was like, there could have been little things in there. But yeah, I don't know why I decided to bring that up all of a sudden, but yeah, that's the thing I gotta say right off the bat about this film. The miniseries, it was a lot more like psychological horror, I guess I gotta say, simply because they couldn't really show much. Like, there was, you know, you saw creepy clown stuff in there, and you saw him doing creepy stuff, but you never really saw him do anything, because there's no way they could show that A, because they didn't have the special effects back then to really capture it, and B, it was on basic cable. This is an R-rated film in the day and age in which they can create anything they want with special effects. This one goes, fuck your subtext. Fuck your mind games. I'm gonna show you some freaky ass shit. This movie is not subtle in any way, and I'm fine with that. This film is just putting scary shit in your face non-stop in this film. Like, you guys know me, I love horror. I do, because I like getting that adrenaline rush of just being like, oh my god, what's gonna happen, and you get that rush going on you, and it's like, you know, it builds up all that energy inside you. I love that feeling. This film does not do a lot of times setting up. There, like, for a lot of the scares, there are almost no setups. Like, typically, a horror film would be like a couple minutes of, ooh, what's this? What was that noise? Like, a little bit. And this one's like, oh, hey, that's kind of a creepy thing. And I was like, yeah, it gives you like 2 seconds to prep yourself for when the scary shit comes. And I don't want to make it seem like it's jump scares. It's not.
No. There's a huge difference.
I kind of applaud them. There aren't jump scares in this film. A film about a clown that jumps out at you all the time. Yeah, no jump scares. They do set everything up, and they do it pretty wonderfully. It goes a little too fast at some moments. I feel like some of these moments would be a little bit more effective if you gave them a little bit more time to set up the scares. But for the vast majority of this film, all the scares are excellent because they do not give you that time to like prep yourself. It's just, you are in the shit, like creepy things are happening, go. And I realized that, like I said, I love that feeling of getting that adrenaline rush from being scared at a horror film. Need to specify that. But there was a moment in which the new kid, he's in the library and he's studying something, and he sees that there was this hideous, this like Easter Day massacre in their town. 88 kids died, and he sees that one of the kids in the photographs, he got his head knocked off, and he just goes down into like the basement of this library, and then you see like this like burnt, charred kid, yeah, walking down the steps, and like you see like his body slowly coming up with like the ceiling right here, and then he takes another step down and there's no head. And I was like, okay, that was pretty creepy. And then it proceeds to have this weird, jerky, like headless, burnt corpse chasing after this kid. He's running, he turns back around, Pennywise is there now, like chasing after him. And I was sitting there going, I'm not getting the adrenaline rush. I don't feel any like amped up energy coming from this. I'm just freaked the fuck out from this. That doesn't typically happen to me in horror films. Like typically I get freaked out, but I'm like, oh, like I can feel my energy rising up and this I was, and I made that noise specifically because I don't know if you heard it, but as soon as that scene was over with, way in the back of the theater, we were sitting in the front, and I could tell way from the back, I heard somebody going, like someone was making that sound you make when you're too afraid to scream, like, I heard that come from the back of the theater. I was like, thank God it wasn't just me. Yeah, this was not like that amp you up kind of energy scares. The scares in here, I mean, there are some like that.
Yeah.
Especially in the back half of the film. In the back half of the film, there's a lot of those. But in the front half, a lot of the scares are, oh, fuck. Oh, no. That's the kind of terror that comes from this. At least for me, I will gladly admit, even though I love horror films, you'd think that would cause me to build up an immunity to it. But instead, I actually, I get scared pretty easily by these kinds of things. So I don't know how you felt about it.
I'm actually, a more realistic person. I don't really get scared that much. Do you see, to be honest, the adults scared me more in this movie than Pennywise because...
Ain't that some shit?
Oh, boy. It's like...
These are some Stephen King ass adults.
Oh, this clown, there's no way a clown is gonna bite my arm off or anything like that, but yeah, there's a chance that your parent is gonna might hit you or something, or ground you, or keep you locked in your room and stuff.
You are leaving out the major one.
Yeah, that's cause
I know you don't want to say it. There's one girl in this group of boys, and her dad is a fucking molesting pedophile. Yeah, and here's the thing. Again, I don't remember much from the original. I mostly just remember the scenes with Pennywise. I don't remember a lot about the kids.
Yeah.
I am 99% sure they did not put that in the original miniseries. In fact, going into this film, there were a lot of people asking, are you going to include that scene from the book? And a lot of people out there know what I'm talking about. In case you don't, in the book there's a scene where when they're kids and they realize they have to go down into the well or into the sewer or whatever and confront Pennywise, because I actually don't know, like I said, I never read the book, so I don't know how much they change about the ending of this, because I can tell they changed it a little bit to give it more of a sense of finality, to be like, okay, end of the movie, whereas in the book and in the miniseries, it's to be continued very clearly. So I know they changed some stuff to give it more of a sense of finality, but in the book, when they have to go down and finally confront Pennywise, basically the kids go, we have to go into hell, but we can't get into hell because we're children and we're too pure. We have to sin. And there's one girl in there, so they all just have a giant orgy with her. And there were so many people going, are they going to include that in the movie? You are out of your fucking mind if you think they were going to include that. Like, everybody was going, no, you fucking idiots. Of course they're not going to put it in there. But they have in here so many little things in here that's like, they didn't have the kids get the big orgy scene, but they reference like child rape a lot in here. And I was like,
it's like,
fuck, man, you got
child rape, child abuse, and like stuff that can actually happen in the real world. And like I said, that's the shit that really scares me. Yeah. So that's the stuff that like really got me nervous in those scenes.
But yeah, there was that. Yeah, I remember after one moment between the girl and her dad, I looked over at you and you were just like, it was the worst face I'd ever seen you make. But yeah, I just had to bring that up just simply because everybody was like, no, you fucking idiot, of course they're not going to do that. And then you watch the film and it's like, oh my god, they might actually do it. Because they are getting real close, like, they get as close to doing that scene as you possibly can, as being socially acceptable. Which, by the way, before anybody gets super mad at Stephen King, I should point out, he has since then come out and said, I was coked out of my mind when I wrote that. I don't know. Like, he has apologized for that scene because he was like, dude, I was on drugs when I wrote that, and I just went, what's the most fucked up thing I can think of? And that was it. And in all fairness, that is the most fucked up thing you can think of.
Yeah.
So, okay. And something that coked up Stephen King would think of. That's the amazing thing. When you think about all like Stephen King's like most incredible stuff that he's done as far as horror goes, he was high as fuck at the time. And yet, the most amazing fantasy stuff that he's done, he did stone cold sober. You'd think it'd be the other way around. Okay, let's actually go ahead and get into what the actual plot of this is, because we've gone for 20 minutes without talking about it. And in the time between this and the break, I decided to get out my phone and actually look up all their names. Yeah.
So we don't have to go, oh, this kid and that kid. And
I was going to do that, yeah. So anyway, after Bill's little brother Georgie disappears, it skips ahead by almost a year, and it's the start of summer break. And they're a group of 4 friends. There's Bill, who is the main character, and he's got a little bit of a stutter. Then there is Richie, who is actually played by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, which I didn't know until I looked this up. That kid has grown up a lot since season 1 of Stranger Things. I did not recognize him looking at this. Plus, he can act.
Yeah.
He is playing a completely different character in here. In fact, I kind of hated his character, but
I know, but like...
he's Richie, and he's the wise ass. Like, every word out of his mouth is, oh yeah, well, I fucked your mother last night. Like, that's every word out of his mouth.
Yeah, basically. It's like, I didn't like what he said, but I was like, it's a boy from the 80s. That's kind of how they were back.
Everyone in this is a fucking stereotype. So much. But so there's Bill, there's Richie, there's Eddie, who is a germaphobe, and then there's Stanley, who, he doesn't really get much time. All we really know about him is that he's Jewish, and we know that because he's studying for his bar mitzvah. He's the son of the town rabbi.
Like, I thought felt like that was going to come into play. Like, he was going to do, like, a Jewish prayer to, like, ward off the evil
I thought
thing.
some kind of religious thing was going to come up. Like, his bike, like, Bill's bike actually says silver on the side. I was like, okay, so demons are supposed to be weak to silver, so that's got to come into play. But then I thought, why would you put fucking actual silver on your bike? So, no, it's just the name of the bike. It's not actually made of silver. So those are the main 4. But there is also Mike, who is this homeschool kid, and his parents are dead, and he lives with his grandpa, and he works on a farm where basically he just kills sheep all day.
Yeah, he slaughters sheep to be sold as meat, so...
Then there's Ben, who is the new kid in town, and then there's Beverly, the girl. I hate saying it, but yeah,
at least
she's got character to her. She's actually a really great character, but it's like, that's her role.
At least he didn't call Mike the token black guy, so...
Man, I feel like... I really feel bad that they made Mike the one black guy, because he disappears for 2/3 of this fucking film.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you had done that with any other character, I wouldn't be calling shit on it, but it's the fact that you made the one black guy in here disappear for 2/3 of the film, like,
like, I get that he lives on the outskirts. He lives in, like, the farmland away from the town.
I get why he wouldn't interact with the rest of them until the end, because he is the homeschool kid, but again, he disappears from this entire film for 2/3, which I really love this film, but that is one of the problems I have with it, is that you need to get the sense of all of them coming together,
right?
And you do. Except for Mike.
Yeah.
Because Mike, literally, as I said, he's gone for almost this entire film. And he comes in at the very end. Like, he is the last guy to join the squad. And he comes in for, like, the last half hour of this. They go on one little mission. It gets, like, too freaky for them. And they decide, we're not working together again. And then Beverly ends up getting kidnapped by Pennywise. And then they go, guys, we got help. We got all go for this. And I was like, yes, we're all going to go back and go and fight this thing. And then you see Mike joining them. And I was like, okay, I can believe all of them joining up for this, except for Mike, because he literally knew you for a day. That was it. Like, he literally joined up with them, went to the spooky house, said, I'm not doing this anymore. And then they had to call him a month later for help. And he was like, all right, I'm coming in. I was like...
Well, they did kind of save him from the bullies.
They saved him from the bullies. But then they took him to the dark, spooky horror house. That evens out in my mind. But like, yeah, it's like, man, you need to bring him in at like the halfway point of this film. You waited way too long to bring him into the main fold. Because, yeah, I don't get that sense that he would sign up to go and save this girl who he knew for 2 hours. But aside from Mike, I did like everyone else.
Yeah.
I like Mike, but I think they did a good... I don't think they did a good job incorporating him into the team. But everybody else...
He needed more screen time, so basically,
they know what I'm saying. But everybody else in here, I think they actually did a great job of bringing them all together.
Too.
However, I will say, Richie and... God, I already forgot his name. The germaphobe kid. Richie and... Eddie, yes, thank you. I was annoyed as fuck with those kids throughout the vast majority of this film. Eddie, eventually, I was like, oh, okay, I like Eddie now. Richie, I hated his fucking guts up until I'd say the last 20% of this film. Like, when he went into the horror house, and because he is actually the one kid who never even sees any of this stuff.
Yeah.
All of the other kids are getting tormented, they're having the monsters come after him. Richie never sees anything until he goes into the horror house. And I think it was around then when you actually saw him getting freaked out and everything that I was like, okay, alright, you're not so bad. Because all the other ones, you're on their side because they're being hunted down with this thing and you're worried. But while they're being hunted down, he's like, yeah, fuck y'all, fuck yourselves. What the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, I'm gonna go and play Street Fighter. Which the weird thing is, this town still looks like it's set in the 50s.
Yeah.
But then like the movie theater's playing Batman and
Terminator 2?
Terminator 2 was one of the ones they were playing, which, hold on a second, when did those films come out? Wait a minute. Batman came out in 1989. This film was set in 1988.
No. It started in 1988. Then it flashed forward to like 1988.
You're right. Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
my bad.
So like basically within that general...
Okay, you're right. Fair enough. But yeah, it's just so weird because it's like, aside from the shirts they're wearing and like they'll just like mention something in here. The town feels like something from the 50s.
Well,
like everybody else in this town looks like they're set in the original movie or original miniseries, except that every now and again they just make a reference to the 80s. Like the new kid loves New Kids on the Block, which I actually love that. I love that little trait about him. I thought that was so cute. But then they'll actually put in there like an 80s song during a moment. I'll be like, that does not match this tone at all.
Well, I just figured it's like a very backwoods kind of place where
I guess,
it's like...
because I grew up in a town like that where it's
Yeah.
like it could have, like if I'm sure if I go and visit my town right now, it will feel exactly like it did in 1990. So like, and I'm sure if I travel back in time by 40 years, it would be exactly like that as well in the 1970s. Like, yeah, okay, so I understand that. I can't complain that much, but it did feel with the music like they were trying a little bit too hard to reference it. Not so much with the New Kids on the Block, because again, that was actually a touching thing to add to that character. But the soundtrack itself, whenever the soundtrack actually had an 80s song in there, it felt really forced to me. But so anyway, you've got this whole group of kids. There's the 4 main kids. And then the girl Beverly, she starts interacting with the new kid, and then she eventually interacts with and then eventually the new kid is getting bullied by this group of like the older kids. They are like malicious bullies.
Yeah.
There's no bully in cinema quite like a Stephen King bully.
It's like, you think like the parents are bad, but holy shit, the bullies are horrible.
Which in
too.
all
Like,
fairness, man, I grew up in a town where bullies were like that, where like parents just didn't give a shit about the boys, and like there's just wide open spaces everywhere where no one's looking, and yet boys would fuck your shit up. And there's a moment where they're dragging the new kid out, and the new kid is a fat kid, and I was a fat kid growing up, and man, I was having flashbacks at that scene. I was like, yeah, I grew up way out in the woods, way out in the boonies, and yeah, this is the kind of shit that happened. Except he then pulls out a knife and he says, I'm gonna carve my initials into your fucking fat stomach. And he starts like actually carving his name into his stomach. I was like, okay, boys never actually did that.
yeah, like they were threatening to like light his hair on fire with hairspray too.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, oh,
that
jeez.
I've actually, yeah, okay,
Oh.
that one's real. In fact, that was the thing that in high school, I knew a guy in the school's prop department who whenever a play happened, before the play, he would go, this is what I always do to celebrate. He would take hairspray and a lighter and just blowtorch some stuff and be like, you're gonna destroy someone's life someday. Hopefully not mine. So yeah, when I saw that, I was like, believable. But yeah, there is a psychotic boy in here. But the boy is chasing down the new kid, and then the new kid ends up finding the 4 main kids, and then Beverly ends up finding the new kid after he's injured, and when he's paired up with them, so they are now all teamed up. So now you've got the main 6 people, and like I said, they really need to figure out a way to get the homeschool kid in there quicker, because again, they forget he's in here for the vast majority of this film. So yeah, he comes in at the end, but for the majority of this film, it's just those 6 kids.
Yeah.
And the new kid has been studying this town, because he didn't have any friends, so he just went to the library and just studied the history of the town over and over again, which again, I think is actually a cool explanation for why this kid would know all this stuff. But he kind of becomes obsessed with studying about this town, because the more he studies, the more he finds out this town, people disappear in this town at 6 times the national average. And for kids, it's even higher. And like apparently like every 27 years, there is a mass disappearance of children. And one of the things I love about this town is that towards the end of the film, they actually mention all the missing signs everywhere. But for like the first 2/3 of this film, they never talk about, but you notice there are missing signs everywhere in this town. I love that little touch. I love that they didn't have to mention it for the vast majority of this movie. They actually let it just speak for itself. So they discover, yeah, all these people go missing, and one by one, each of these kids start to see whatever their worst fear is. Like something really terrifying just kind of coming up to them, like the Beverly, she's in the bathroom one day, and all of a sudden just blood explodes out of the sink. Just covers everything. And then the germaphobe kid, like he sees a leopard chasing after him, just some guy who's just like melting. He's covered in so much disease. The let's see, the new kid, what is the new kid? The new kid sees the headless kid from the old newspaper
Right.
clippings. What was his name? The homeschool kid. What was it, Mike?
Yeah, Mike. He like saw like his.
That was one of the best scares in the whole film.
Yeah, like he saw his parents like getting locked up and like burned and everything.
Well, it's when he was a kid.
Yeah.
His parents died because his house caught on fire, and his parents couldn't get to him, so he just saw his parents' hands like trying to reach in to grab him in the midst of the fire, and you see him like trying to go and make a delivery, and he sees like this door just slowly creak open and just dozens of hands come out, and like there's just fire building up behind it. So yeah, I thought that was one of the better scares in this whole film. What else who are the other kids? Am I missing one?
Well, Richie's the only one.
Richie's the only one that doesn't see anything, and like he says he's afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
But he doesn't see anything until way later in this film. But yeah, it then spends the next period of this film like just basically showing you really freaky stuff.
The Jewish kid, it was that creepy painting.
There's a painting, yeah.
That I hate saying this, but it kind of looks like those weird images of Benedict Cumberbatch you see on Tumblr.
Why you gotta do Benedict Cumberbatch wrong like that? But no, there's a painting that his dad has in his office of a woman playing the flute, and it's like this weird, like the woman's like, it almost looks like the Scream person where their head is like warped and shaped. He sees that chasing after him. So yeah, every single one of them is basically just seeing their worst fears, and like I said, the scares in here are shot so damn well. Like, they know how to frame a shot. Like, there will be moments where like they'll be running from something, and they're trying to get away, and then they'll turn around, and then they'll just see Pennywise standing there. Like, the monster's gone. It's like the monster is just there to kind of like soften the kid up, like get their fear going, because that's what Pennywise feeds on. So it's like after they get terrified, it's like, okay, that's when Pennywise comes out to feed. And yeah, there's like one shot where they're like, it's the germaphobe kid, and he is running from that diseased man, and then he turns around, and it's just Pennywise holding like 9 balloons going like a triangle, like perfectly covering his face, and like, that was a great jump cut. That was a great just jump from, oh my god, monster there, the kid, turns back around, Pennywise. Just because there's nothing but motion, still shot of Pennywise. Like, that's very jarring. Like, it's done incredibly well. Excuse me. Oh, God. I almost threw up from fear. So, yeah, I think that all the scares in here are done wonderfully. And I do like the kids. And I do like how they all come together, except for Mike. It just takes way too long to get Mike in there. But this is a long-ass film. They are not afraid to take their time in this movie. It's so weird that most Hollywood horror films, even indie horror films, are like hour and a half, max. That's all you get. This is 2 hours and 15 minutes, and there's so many moments in this film in which like my internal clock was going, it's going to start dying down right about it. Like it's got to end. It's got to end right now. Like this is when this thing is supposed to end. Just because like my internal clock was like, it's about time, man. And I was like, are you gonna do that BS thing where you just cut to black and then go to be continued? And I was like, don't do that. They don't. They actually do a great job of giving this thing like an actual like sense of finality to it.
Yeah, it's like there was one time where I thought they were gonna do that.
What was that moment?
It was like after they explore the haunted house for the first time.
Yeah, so like after they do that, they then get into an argument and they all split apart. And it's like, I don't want anything else to do with you. And I was like, that's when it's going to like cut to 20
and it literally like cuts to black, and I was like, are the credits gonna start rolling? And then it's like, then it like fades it back to the town as like September or something like that. It's like, oh, it's just a time skip.
Yeah, like the only reason why I didn't think they would do that is because I saw on Rotten Tomatoes this has like 90% at the moment. I thought if they ended it like that, there'd be so many more people pissed off at this film. So yeah, they actually then after that, Beverly, like all the kids have stopped talking to each other, and their parents have stopped them from talking to each other because they went into the big spooky house because they believe that's where the Pennywise lives. And the germaphobe kid got his arm broken, and his mom is crazy overprotective. Like she has been making him take pills, and the daughter of the pharmacy guy actually came up to him and went, you know those are placebos, right? They don't actually do anything.
But he does have asthma, that's real.
Yeah, that's real.
It's like, so like, if he already has asthma, why are you gonna like give him placebos also? It's like, doesn't he?
I think his mom was just super overprotective. I think like his mom had a kid with asthma, and she was like, well, everything can kill him. Oh my god, I've got to protect him from everything. and eventually, like, he just kind of, like, realizes, I'm not actually, like, this, she's been making me take fake pills and make me live indoors and freak out about everything. I shouldn't be freaking out about everything. So, yeah, like, basically, like, that's when it cuts to, like, 6 months, not 6 months later, like a month later. And nobody's talking to each other because of what happened to this kid, and he broke his arm. They're all like, well, you're all bad influences on each other. We can't have my kid hanging out with all of you. So they've all been separated from each other. And Beverly's dad is basically like, what have you been doing with those boys? I know the way boys look at you. I know what thoughts going through their head. Aren't you still my little girl? And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And so she ends up beating him across the face with the toilet cover. Toilet lid, whatever that thing on the back is.
Yeah.
Whatever you call that. She beats him across the face with it, and he falls over just bleeding from the head. And that's one small complaint I have to say about this. Did he die? Or is he just did he get a concussion?
Well,
like,
at the end of the movie, she said she's moving with her aunt in Portland.
but that could just be because she, like, afterwards called the cops on her dad and was like, yeah, this guy's been trying to, like, sexually assault me for years. And then her aunt was, and then, like, because if her dad goes to jail, she can also move him with the aunt. So it's like, yeah, I don't know really what happened there. Like, there's so many, they cover so much ground in here. Mm-hmm. This really feels like they took, like, the first half of a massive Stephen King book and put it into a film and tried to put as much stuff in there as they possibly could. But there's still some things I have questions about in there. About, like, okay, well, what happened here? What happened there? Very small things.
Yeah.
Mostly, like, most of my questions are just, well, then what happened? Kind of things.
Maybe you'll find out in the second half.
You will. But yeah, so that was one question that I had. It's like, okay, so did the dad actually die? What happened with that? But yeah, so after that happens, Pennywise then comes, gets Beverly, and takes her off. And Bill comes and finds out that Pennywise is taking her, and he sends out the call, and all the kids, like, come back together. And I was like, that's really nice, but I feel like, you know, you had a pretty big falling out. It feels like it would take more than just, like, Beverly being kidnapped, because, like, all of them were basically like, no, fuck that, we're not going to mess with this clown anymore, ever. Oh, she's in trouble? Well, let's all go and do it. It's like, I feel like someone needed to give a speech. I feel like somebody needed to say something to kind of get them all together. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. But then they go back, they go into the house, they go into the well, which I actually kind of dig that the bully shows back up then.
Yeah.
The bully shows up because there's been this weird children's program playing on every TV that you see. Mm-hmm. Every TV that you see, there's this weird children's program, and they're talking about, like, how fun the sewers are and all these things, and let's sing the They All Float Down Here song. And I was
like, aren't clowns funny? And
yeah, something like that. And I was like, this has to tie in some way. And then sure enough, the kid's dad is the sheriff, and
the bully's
dad
yeah.
is the sheriff. And you see, this kid is sociopathic. He is a monster. But then you see his dad.
Like, he's a sociopath too.
Like, his dad was a monster, raised a monster. Again, you can really go down the Stephen King checklist on here. Like, let's see, law enforcement agencies being told a-holes. Yep, check that one off. So he then ends up actually killing his own dad because this children's program just starts telling him, stab the knife in his neck, kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. And then, like, basically the kid ends up being driven crazy by Pennywise, and then he goes there to confront these kids, and he's actually now got a big smile on his face.
He's like,
that looks like the Pennywise. Like,
yeah.
He mimicked the Pennywise smile so well. I actually think that was a brilliant thing that they did. Like, they got him to mimic that smile so darn good. And he even kind of looks like Pennywise. Like, he's got the big forehead and everything going for him.
You know, I felt like that was, like...
intentional?
Like, yeah, like...
It had to have been.
Like, symbolism. Like, basically, the real monsters are the people in your... are the real people. Like, humans are the real monsters and
That's
shit.
also another big Stephen King thing. The whole evil version of Wizard of Oz of you were there and you were there. But yeah, I love that he goes in there and he confronts Mike. Mike is the last one to go down to this big well that leads basically into the underworld where Pennywise is. And he's the last one to go in. And then the bully comes in and starts attacking him. And Mike is barely able to fight him off. And then Mike runs up and shoves him down the well, and he just falls all the way down.
And you see him like smashing his head against the wall while like he was down. It's like, he's dead.
And honestly, there were a couple moments in this film where people applauded.
Yeah.
Me and one person way in the back started applauding and then realized, oh, this is the one moment you don't applaud when Mike saves the day from the bully. No one's gonna applaud that. All right, fine. Because like, yeah, there were like 4 moments in this whole film where the audience was, yeah, woo, including like the scene where they all get together and throw the rocks at the bullies. And I was like, okay, yeah, this seems even better. This is him staying.
Yeah, I guess so. But at the same time, he killed someone. But in this,
he killed the guy who had been driven insane by like.
Granted, it was self-defense, but I think a reason why a lot of people didn't like applaud is because it is still murder. But like,
I don't think that's it. I think there's other reasons they didn't applaud. So yeah, they go down there and they find Pennywise in there, and there's a scene in there. It's so weird. They do stuff with Pennywise that I kind of want to think is funny, but it's still just too damn freaky. Like, they just shoot it too well. Like, there's like just basically a big box that Pennywise is in, and it opens up, and he's just got like cardboard fire mountains behind him.
It's like a circus wagon.
That's what it is. I was trying to think of it. It's like, it's a circus wagon, but like the backdrop in there is just supposed to look like hell. And then he starts like dancing, but his head is remained perfectly still. The stage is shaking, his body is going back and forth, but his face, like, just frozen in that one spot. And I was like, part of me wants to laugh, but the other part of me thinks that's fucking terrifying.
It's like, they did that a lot. Like, they focus on the face while the background and his body is moving a lot.
Yeah, they do. Like I said, they shoot Pennywise so damn well in here. But I love that he goes up to Bev, and Bev just says, I'm not afraid of you. And he takes a big old whiff of her, and then he like gets upset. And I was like, he can smell fear. And he knows she actually isn't afraid of him. Way to go. And like, again, it kind of goes back to what you're saying. The real monsters are humans. And it's like, yeah, man, she finally confronted and had to defeat her rapist father. Yeah, man. Pennywise ain't shit after that, so it was kind of like,
like in the final battle, like his face kept shifting into like whatever the kids were afraid of, and then we shifted his head to the father. She just like.
I love that. That was great. Is that he kept shifting it into him, and they kept just beating the shit out of him, and I love that. It's like, yeah, man, these are these kids not being afraid, and then he shifts it into her father, and she doesn't even hesitate. She rams a fucking spike down his mouth. And I was like, you go, girl. Good for you. But I found it... But one of my favorite things that Pennywise does in here is after he realizes she's not afraid, his mouth like opens all the way up, and it's just a row of teeth going like all the way down to a pit. And you hear people screaming in there. Because to me, just hell is one of the most frightening thoughts out there. Like this like... dimension where your soul is just tortured forever, and like you see leading down to a pit that's like this orange flame down there, and you hear people screaming. It's like, holy shit, he's hell. He is just walking hell. That's all he is. He is fucking horrifying. So yeah, I gotta say right off the bat, this Pennywise better than Tim Curry's. I will say it. I know Tim Curry still has his charm, because he talks like an old Brooklyn hobo. But that's really the charm to Tim Curry's Pennywise. This Pennywise is just fucking terrifying. Like, I think he does a great job in here. And I love one of the small details that makes him so damn creepy is he's wall-eyed. Like, every time that they look at him, he's got his eyes going off like this. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, it is just such a small touch. And I don't know if it was special effects. I don't know if it was contact lenses. I don't know if the actor himself was able to do that. But yeah, just making it so that he can't even look at you correctly. It's that feeling of, Sigmund Freud called it the uncanny. That thing where it looks real, but something is slightly off.
And I feel like that's why so many people are afraid of clowns. They are uncanny.
It's like, it's not really a human, but it is a human. Yeah, it is that. That's really the fear behind
and that's why, even though I'm not afraid of clowns, I understand why people are afraid of them.
But even for like just a regular clown, even if you're not afraid of clowns, something about the fact that its eyes ain't right. Like, it just does not, it can't stare straight. Like, it just makes him look like he's just thinking of horrible shit at all times. Like, just looking off to the sides in both directions. Such a cool thing. Small problems with it, like I said, the soundtrack I think was kind of distracting. I really was annoyed by Richie up until the end, because when Richie actually did start encountering the terrifying stuff, he became better. But also, when he actually, like, stepped up and said, "I hate you, Bill, because you're the reason I'm down here. And now I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown." I was like...
Like, everyone applauded at that part.
That's the thing. The audience loved Richie. The audience laughed at almost every line Richie had. And I think, honestly, it's because... I say this all the time. In horror films, it's always kind of good to put some humor in there because the audience needs a release valve. It needs something when that tension gets too high to just kind of go beep and like let all that steam out. I think that was Richie's purpose in here, to give that audience something to laugh at, because I was like, he's not saying that much funny stuff, but the audience was dying at him, and I think they just needed something to laugh at because this film was too damn freaky for them. So, yeah, that I was kind of upset with. As I said, the germaphobe kid, again, kind of like he annoyed me up until that moment where he finally stood up to his mom, and I was like, now I'm kind of on your side. But yeah, the scene where basically... The scene which they're down there in Pennywise's pit, and first off, I love the fact that you saw all the kids and they were just floating around this giant, like, weird concoction of shit. It actually brings back why he said things like, "You'll float too."
So I always thought it was like because dead bodies float in the water.
That's what it's supposed to mean, but I like that they actually gave, like, oh, and also when he sucks your soul out, like, you float around, like, in his weird, like, monument of shit.
So does Pennywise just, like, suck out your soul?
That's the feeling I got.
Does he eat your flesh? Does he absorb your fear? Like, feed on your fear?
I think all of them. I think it's pretty much all of them. Because, like I said, he's basically walking hell. He sucks your soul down into him. Because that was always the feeling that I got that made him so terrifying to me, is that, like, when you see, like, Georgie there, like, when Bill is getting tormented by the images of Georgie, which, by the way... The scene in which he goes into his basement and Georgie's down there and Georgie starts rotting and you see Pennywise slowly coming out of the water. That's one of the best scares in this whole film. I love that moment so much. But yeah, that's one of the things that always made Georgie, even in the original, so terrifying to me when he sees like the ghost of Georgie. It was like, Pennywise has him. Like, this is his soul and he's just put it on a hook and thrown it out there for Bill to kind of get him in there. That was one of the things that always terrified me about it. So I always got the feeling I was like, yeah, he sucks out the soul because that's where your fear is. So he's trying to eat that. But also, he just eats your flesh if he wants to. Sure, why not? But yeah, the "you'll float too." It's supposed to be reference to dead bodies float. But seeing them actually all float around like that, I was like, okay, that's actually like it's not even a metaphor now. Like it's an actual thing. But I love that scene in which they go down there and. They see he actually encounters Georgie because Georgie is so like the child actor playing Georgie is excellent. Like he actually acts like a kid who's worried that his older brother is going to be mad at him. And in that moment when she comes in there and he's just acting like, I just want to go home. Why did it take you so long to find me? Like all that stuff. Man, you know it's Pennywise.
Yeah.
But you want it to be Georgie. And so does Bill. Bill wants to be Georgie, obviously.
But he knows.
But yeah, he knows and the audience knows. But even the audience in that moment, like, no one is screaming, "It's Pennywise, don't go over there." No. Like, everyone's like, please, just let it be Georgie. Just change it from the book. Have Georgie come back to life. Like, let him just save Georgie. Like, there is that moment, like, because the kid playing Georgie plays it so honestly and so genuine. You want it to be real. You want it to actually be Georgie. But it ain't. So I love that moment there. Another small problem, I kind of dig the love triangle that they put here.
it was an interesting take on the whole love triangle thing.
Yeah, but my problem is that it was like, let the fat kid get the girl for once.
I know, especially
that was my problem.
Especially like when he was the one who like brought her back from.
He saves her, and he's the one who writes the poem that she loves so much.
And it's obvious like he's the one who is like more in love with her than Billy was.
You actually see like him being in love with her. Bill is just kind of like, oh, pretty girl. So it's like, yeah, it's like you don't really get the sense of Bill being in love with her. Whereas with the new kid, you totally get the sense that like he's in love with her, and like you get the sense that she cares about what he wrote for her, and you get the sense that they actually have like a back and forth like with that new Kids on the Block thing going on. Like you actually really get that, and yeah, when her soul is like gone, she's just like floating there like with no emotion in her eyes,
no pupils in her eyes.
He brings her back with that kiss, and it was like, and she comes back and recites the poem back to him, and like, God, that's so sweet. And also, as I said, for God's sakes, for once in movie-going history, let the fat kid get the girl. Let the fat guy get the girl. It's like, come on, man.
Enough of your fat phobic shit.
And so it's like, that was so sweet that like they had that moment there. And then the movie ends with Bill kissing her. And like that's what it ends on. And like she kisses him back. Like if he just kissed her and he was like, no, I'm sorry. I was like, oh, okay, well I guess you had to deal with this. Okay, God. But no, she then starts kissing him back, and I was like, for real?
Honestly.
Like, it actually made me upset.
Well, I think at first she thought Bill was the one who gave her the poem, so.
But after she realizes it was the new kid, that's what makes me go, come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think she wanted to get with Bill, but then she realized it was the fat kid, but I don't know. It's just...
I don't know. It's just a problem.
But, like, I kind of predicted the kiss thing, because, like, at one scene where you, like...
Because you've seen movies before?
Besides that, I mean, like, there's, like, one scene where she goes into a room and, like, it shows a book called The Frog Prince. So I'm like, oh, someone's gonna have to kiss somebody to, like, bring them back from the dead or something like that.
Oh, you mean that one? I thought you meant the kiss that ended the film off.
No.
Okay.
No, fuck that kiss.
Okay. That's why I said because you've seen movies before, because it's like, yeah, we all knew you weren't going to get the fat kid, son. Fuck you, Hollywood. But again, it's like, that's one of those things where it's like, I can't even really, like, hold that against this film. Yeah. It's more against society in general.
Who knows? There is a part 2 coming out, so maybe she will get with a fat kid later.
Which I really wish there was, like, a post, because I don't think they've announced who the adult versions of these characters are going to be, and I really wish there had been like a post-credit scene showing like, and that would be like the reveal of like one of them as an adult.
Yeah.
Or something. Which, by the way, for the germaphobe kid, if you don't get the guy who plays Schmidt on New Girl, you are missing out. Like, the whole time I was watching that kid, I was like, it's Schmidt. It's 100% Schmidt. And Richie is kind of Nick in New Girl, too. Just cast this whole film as New Girl. Although there is a moment in which they call the New Girl, in which they call Bev Molly Ringwald. And I was like, Molly Ringwald would be about the right age to play her as an adult. Like, that would actually be an awesome thing to like bring her in for this. She's still acting, not in good films, but she could be in this.
So, and when they do the adult cast, like, I feel like they're gonna make the fat kid like really handsome, like, oh, he lost weight and like went to puberty, now he's hot. It's like, oh God.
I totally believe that.
Oh, I really don't want that to happen. It's like,
what if the fat kid gets in shape, but Bill's now fat? Oh, Hollywood, come on, call me up. I got an idea on this one. Yeah, so man, I'm still just really thinking, like, couldn't you give the fat kid something? Fuck, man. But yeah, I really freaking enjoy this film.
Yeah.
I think that does a great job bringing all the characters together, except for Mike, because they waited too long on it. But I did really like Mike as well.
I hope Mike gets a better, more screen time in the second one.
I doubt that they'll be like, well, Mike moved to another country, and then the last like 30 minutes, I'm back, guys. Hey.
He'll be played by Nick Fury, just like, I mean...
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
Way to go on that one.
Sorry. Pretty much just...
I could keep going with this New Girl thing, because the New Girl... No, never mind. All the New Girl people out there know what I'm talking about.
I've had it with these motherfucking clowns in these motherfucking sewers.
All the rest of them were like, we're all 40. Why are you 20 years older than us now? Life has not aged him well.
I've seen some shit. Seen some real shit, yo.
Got a job working in the sewer just specifically so he could figure out where to hunt down clowns. Yeah, I really want to know like who they're gonna cast in each of these people as adults. Like I'm saying, I said semi as a joke, but no, it's totally Minnie Schmidt in here, man. So yeah, another problem that I have with this is one thing that I kept saying there's one other problem I have with this, and I kept forgetting. My other problem is there's a lot of things in here that's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, like, because they do a great job setting up some things, but then there's other things that are just kind of like in your face. Because, again, it feels like they want to fit in here as much as they could, but then there's some stuff they just didn't have time for. And like, for example, when you're first introduced to the creepy house, they're literally just walking down the street, and then there's the creepy house. And we're at like an hour and 20 minutes into this film when that happens. I was like, how has no one in this town brought this up yet? How has that not been a thing up until this point? Like, if there was that one creepy ass house that looked like that house in this small of a town, someone would have mentioned it by this point. And when Mike finally joins it and they're all sharing like what they saw that scared them, he says, you know that burnt down house on the edge of town? And I was like, oh, the creepy house? And then I realized, no, it's a different house he's talking about. You can't just introduce burnt house at this moment. Like, it feels like there had to have been a deleted scene that showed that
I'm pretty
house
sure
at
there
some
were like
point.
plenty of deleted scenes.
I get a feeling there's like a director's cut that has an extra like 20 minutes to this thing. Like, I guarantee you there is a 2.5 hour version of this film. Probably 20 more minutes of Mike, because like I said, they forgot that kid in this film. That's another problem I have with it. Like, my problem with this film, there's a lot of little elements in here that's just kind of like, there it is, it's in your face. We didn't talk about it before, but now it's an important thing. Mike, completely forgotten. Richie and the germaphobe kid, they kind of annoyed me until the end of this film, but then I did really like them. The Jewish kid, even though he's there throughout the majority of the film, I feel like he
didn't do much.
He gets the least amount of focus out of the 6 main characters. Like, him and Mike get about the same amount of like stuff to do in this film, except Mike doesn't show up until the last half hour. The Jewish kid is there the entire time, so it's like, I feel like you got a raw deal in this, man. I'm trying to think anything else in there that really, and the soundtrack. The soundtrack kind of annoyed me. But aside from that, I mean, in a 2 hour and 15 minute long film, that's not that much stuff, and I really loved so much other stuff about this film.
Yeah, it's like, all the nitpicks are just that, like, nitpicks. And
they're things that you can pinpoint, but the rest of this thing is great. Yeah. And like I said, the scares are wonderful in here. I think all the effects are great. I absolutely love that. Typically, I hate when horror films show you too much. This film shows you tons of stuff, but it was so freaky, I was like, I don't care. Yeah, it's still scaring me, still freaking me the fuck out. Like,
if you are gonna show us something, show us stuff that's fucked up.
Be real good about it. And this film did amazing stuff that made me just freak the fuck out. Like, the scene where, like, Pennywise is coming out of the projector, holy shit, I heard people freaking out in the audience at that, including myself. That was a crazy, like, any time in which they got, like, his teeth just all, like, mashed and mangled in there, like, man, you know how to make a clown look freaky as shit. And I think all the kids in here really are darn good. Some of their characters might have annoyed me, but I eventually came around on them. And some of them might not have been in there enough, but what they were in there for, they were great. Like, I'm not gonna just keep calling him the Jewish kid. Stanley. Okay, yeah, Stanley... Yeah, he gets way less to do in here than the rest of the characters, but, like, he has a great emotional moment. Like, he's the guy who did not want to go into the house.
Right.
He refused to go into the house. And you're like, if we separate, we can't do it. We have to all be together. And then the moment they get down to the pit, he gets separated from them, and then he gets attacked, and they find, like, that weird painting lady sucking his face dry. And I thought he was dead, but no, he barely survives that thing. And when they get him off, I love that he didn't be like, I'm okay. He breaks down crying and goes, where were you? You said that we were gonna be together. I didn't want to come here. I was like, that's how a child would act to this. Way to go. Like, I love that all these kids act like kids in a scary situation. None of these kids until the very end are brave, But that's the fucking point. Pennywise feeds on your fears, so you needed to get kids who could act like they were actually afraid. Like, there's that moment when they go into the house the first time, and Pennywise is just creeping up on all these kids. And he's got, like, a weird, like, half his face is being ripped off, and you just see rows of teeth underneath there. And, like, it cuts to Beverly, and she's screaming, but she's crying, like, half crying at the same moment, like, ah, like that kind of a scream. And I was like, that's how a kid would react in that situation. Like, I don't know if I should scream or cry. It's like, man, each of these kids were perfect at that. So yeah, all the kids really darn good. I think that the whole message about, like, the parents are just as scary as this clown. Like,
the parents and, like, the bullies, basically.
The real world is just as scary. Like, yeah, it's like there's tons of shit to be afraid of out there. And, like, that message they do wonderfully in here as well. Yeah, this film was... Man, this could have been a total fuck-up or a massive success. I think it comes down as a solid success. Like, I really think this film was really darn good. And thank God, because we've had, 3 weeks of nothing in the theaters?
Yeah, it's like the summer blockbuster is over. Now it's the Halloween horror movies.
This is brilliant timing, by the way, because, like, this thing is going to be in theaters for a while. It will be in there when Halloween rolls around, and you know it's going to get that extra little bump there at the end of the Halloween crowd coming in there. So that's brilliant. Plus, we've got, like, 5 other horror films coming out between now and Halloween. Almost every single year at Halloween, we get one. We get one horror film because no one else gave a damn. This year, people are actually working their asses off to make horror films, and even the shitty horror films I've seen this year have at least had something in there I could enjoy. Like, Wish Upon is the worst horror film I've seen all year, and it was at least laughably bad. But then after that, like, It Comes at Night, I think is what it was called. Like, that film had many problems to it, but it also had some really cool stuff in there. And then after that, all the other horror films have been freaking fantastic this year. I've loved them all. And so, yeah, man, we are on a damn roll this time. Normally, I fear the October season because it's like, all right, that one horror film is going to come out and it's going to be a piece of shit. Man, we've already got a good horror film out there. After I go and see Jigsaw, if it sucks, I'll just go see it again. Yeah. How weird is that they're bringing back the most recent franchise that had a killer clown character in there, and now it has to compete against the classic killer clown from horror films. Like, if they wanted to do a re-release of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, now would be the perfect time to do it. So yeah, man, I'm hyped for this year's horror film season. Normally, every single year, it's like there's nothing, but it just feels so good this year. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, I will be having the official review coming up later. It will be way shorter than this one was. Thank you guys for sticking with us all the way to the end. This was a damn long video, but there was so much to talk about. Still wasn't even nearly as long as this movie was. Maybe that's another minor complaint. This could have been tightened just a little bit, I guess.
But
then again, it's like, I don't know what you cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all...
like, it seems like they already cut out quite a few things,
Yeah, but yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know what you thought in the comments down below, and come back next time. Bye.
Bye.